Welcome back to Channel's Business Global with me, Juliana Olayinka, from our studios here in London. In light of the UK's recent budget, which introduces significant tax hikes, new fees and a boost in public spending, many Nigerians living, studying and working in the UK are wondering how these changes will affect their personal finances, living costs and overall economic security. To help unpack what this all means, I was earlier joined in the studio by personal development coach Toyib Adewale Adelodun, who shared practical advice on managing finances under these new conditions. Toyib Adewale Adelodun, thank you so much for taking time out to join me here in the studio. Of course, the budget has been a massive topic of conversation this week. Not just this week, it was so brief.
Build up to it.
There was a huge build-up, but it was a big fiscal moment, not only because Chancellor Rachel Reeves, first woman in 800 years to deliver the budget.
Yes.
It also affects all of us. I know you've been following it keenly. Before we dive into the detail, can you give me your broad overall perspective? Do you think we're better off or worse off after Wednesday's statement?
Like you said, the Rachel Reeves, the first woman to deliver, that's a huge thing. Yes. And there was a thing that she started with where she said, for you girls out there, there's no limit to your dreams.
Absolutely.
That was motivational. And I felt that, like, every girl should listen to this. And then you have to look at the build-up, as you said, towards the budget. The Conservative Party were saying the build-up was too much in terms of, like, it was reducing
a lot of warnings.
A lot of warnings, you know. And some bits were already coming out.
Yeah.
Like the winter fuel payments.
Yes.
Like the
VAT.
bus pass, the VAT.
On private schools.
You know, so those things were already coming out. So there was a build-up to it that it would be massive. And when Rachel went ahead, I think people were expecting about 35 billion pounds to be raised, and then she said 40 billion.
Goodness.
And I could see someone on the other side of the parliament like, 40 billion, where would that come from? So one of the reasons that government is the way it is because they have to fund whatever program they have. And
that's the reality.
That's the reality. So whatever you do is the opportunity cost. If you do something, you're going to miss out on something.
Yeah.
So whatever you do...
The compromise.
Yeah, whatever you say yes to, you're saying no to something else.
Was the compromise carefully curated? Because the big issue now is people say, we can't trust you. You promised us throughout the campaign, throughout that historic victory, that you wouldn't harm working people.
Right.
And he seems to have done just that. Like
you said, it's the compromise. Whatever you say yes to, you say no to something else. So I think they were quite careful with the wording here. And that's why the electorate should always pay attention to politicians. Like they said, we will not increase the tax on the working people. Now, majority of the 40 billion, which is about 25 billion, will be raised from businesses. Yes. Paying the employer's national insurance. Yeah. So if
is that not going to be passed down?
Exactly, because it's all about the bottom line for the businesses. If they are paying more to keep their staff, the staff better be well behaved.
You've actually raised a good point as well, because I know, of course, a lot of our viewers may know you from social media. You're really popular on there, giving advice, career, professional advice. Talk about this employer's national insurance.
Yes.
Is this going to impact those who are being sponsored to work in the UK? I'm sure you're going to get a load of questions about that, Toyib.
So this is the part where international students, people that are being sponsored, need to be really, really aware in terms of opportunities that are available. Employers will be looking to cut their cost of running business. So they may not hire as they used to, number one. And if they are sponsoring you, they are already paying some money to acquire the sponsorship license. They are paying some fees to do that. So
and now this is an additional...
This is an additional. So if you are looking for sponsorship job, this is a time when you need to be really, really aware.
Especially because I'm sure it's April, perhaps, that this will kick in. So there's a few months now to really fast track.
In those areas. So if you see an offer now, I will urge you not to be too picky.
Yeah.
You know, if an employer is willing to taking you on now, don't say I'm waiting for something else. Because people are sitting down crunching numbers now and saying, do we need more staff? Do we need to sponsor someone? You know, and you already fall into the second or third tier in terms of the hiring rules already. Now they have a bill to deal with. Will they be able to take you on?
It's a really important point. So many important points. I also want to touch on some of the positives. I know there are very few positives, but there are some.
Yes.
One of them being the billions that is going to be plummeted into the NHS. We know that, Nigerians contribute so much to the NHS.
Yes.
It's not just caring, although caring is obviously important.
It's a huge one.
We are also doctors.
Yes.
How is that going to benefit us? Do you think there could potentially be more opportunities if there are now going to be 40,000 more appointments every week? Surely they need more staff.
100%. NHS is huge. NHS is something the whole of Britain is proud of.
Yes.
And it is saddening to see the challenges it's had since COVID and all of that. So pumping that money in will really, really help.
Yes.
But there is also something about the reform, because sometimes they say throwing money at the problem is not actually going to solve the problem. So there will be some reforms that will have to happen in terms of how things are being done, and definitely that will create opportunities as well, because NHS is arguably one of the biggest employers.
I think it is the biggest employer in the
country.
UK.
The funding in the affordable housing budget and the £500 million for potholes and all of those things they want to do, that is construction. I talk about that a lot. That's some jobs in some areas. The funding they are trying to put in HS2, that is jobs.
Yes.
So it's a bit of a compromise. You have to raise the tax. It will have its downsides and it will have its upsides as well. You can't get 100% in the budget, but here we are.
Here we are, and as they've said, we're going to be talking about this for weeks, months, years,
for months,
or depending on what happens on Tuesday across the pond.
That
may shape the discourse of geopolitics. But for now, we're still dissecting the budget. Really interesting, as always, talking to you with your expert advice, Mr. Toyib Adewale Adelodun, who is of course an engineer, but doubles up as a personal development coach, particularly for Nigerians in the UK and abroad. Thank you so much, Toyib.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Cool.